Ladies and gentlemen, let us return to the most ludicrous, most laughable book of the Bible, the lovely book of Leviticus. We're in chapter 9 now in our series as we're making our way through the entire book. It's quite a gift, as we have right before us a book which hails from the Almighty Torah, which contains the literal words of God, and hence why the Old Testament, a phrase alone that has profound psychological implications, mostly for the adherents of the Bible, funny enough. But being it contains the purported words of God is one of the leading reasons for why the Old Testament is so important. As one among many of you who find the Bible to be unconscionably atrocious and chock full of nonsense spawned by morally destitute nomads who enjoyed penning mythological mayhem and interweaving their lunatic war god, Yahweh, into their fables, I find it necessary to read such texts and expound on them because the very words of this very book still, somehow in 2025, are a mentally debilitating and crippling force upon humanity and needs to be critically examined and critically attacked where it is necessary. My book, The Holy Shit of the Bible, contains plenty of madness. You can check it out in the TikTok shop. But the Bible itself and passages such as Leviticus 9 that I'm about to read are so blatant and obviously horrendously bad that you really don't have to look much further in order to find the answer. And I mean this answer to whether the Bible is the truth, is God the God of the universe that is presented in the Bible, and the God that I want to worship and share of with the world. So let's read Leviticus 9 here. Aaron's priesthood inaugurated. On the 8th day, Moses summoned Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. He said to Aaron, "Take a bull calf for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering without blemish and offer them before the Lord. And say to the people of Israel, take a male goat for a sin offering, a calf and a lamb, yearlings without blemish for a burnt offering, and an ox and a ram for an offering of well-being to sacrifice before the Lord, and a grain offering mixed with oil, for today the Lord will appear to you." They brought what Moses commanded to the front of the tent of meeting, and the whole congregation drew near and stood before the Lord. And Moses said, "This is the thing that the Lord commanded you to do, so that the glory of the Lord may appear to you." Then Moses said to Aaron, "Draw near to the altar and sacrifice your sin offering and your burnt offering, and make atonement for yourself and for the people, and sacrifice the offering of the people, and make atonement for them as the Lord has commanded." Aaron drew near to the altar and slaughtered the calf of the sin offering, which was for himself. The sons of Aaron presented the blood to him, and he dipped his finger in the blood and put it on the horns of the altar, and the rest of the blood he poured out at the base of the altar. But the fat, the kidneys, and the appendage of the liver from the sin offering he turned into smoke on the altar, as the Lord commanded Moses. And the flesh and the skin he burned with fire outside the camp. Then he slaughtered the burnt offering. Aaron's sons brought him the blood, and he dashed it against all sides of the altar. And they brought him the burnt offering piece by piece, and the head which he turned into smoke on the altar. He washed the entrails and the legs, and with the burnt offering turned them into smoke on the altar. Next he presented the people's offering. He took the goat of the sin offering that was for the people and slaughtered it, and presented it as a sin offering like the first one. He presented the burnt offering and sacrificed it according to regulation. He presented the grain offering, and, taking a handful of it, he turned it into smoke on the altar, in addition to the burnt offering of the morning. He slaughtered the ox and the ram as a sacrifice of well-being for the people. Aaron's sons brought him the blood, which he dashed against all sides of the altar, and the fat of the ox and of the ram, the broad tail, the fat that covers the entrails, the 2 kidneys, and the fat on them, and the appendage of the liver. They first laid the fat on the breasts, and the fat was turned into smoke on the altar, and the breasts and the right thigh Aaron raised as an elevation offering before the Lord, as Moses had commanded. Aaron lifted his hands toward the people and blessed them, and he came down, and after sacrificing the sin offering, the burnt offering, and the offering of well-being, Moses and Aaron entered the tent of meeting, and then came out and blessed the people, and the glory of the Lord appeared to all the people. Fire came out from the Lord and consumed the burnt offering and the fat on the altar, and when all the people saw it, they shouted and fell on their faces. Yeah. Inserting this delightful conglomeration into a book with titles such as Sinister Superstitions of Silly Simpletons, or more appropriately, Blood Rituals, Regulations, and Requirements of a Mythological God of the Middle East, would render very little reads and would eventually disappear. If it happened to make its way in the world, it would most certainly be met with scorn and contempt by all, including believers, and would be merely chalked up as pure mythology. And very bad, very ugly, and very distasteful mythology at that. I think that goes without saying. But now, of course, this passage, being one of many that are equally as heinous, many of which exceed the insanity that we just read, is in the Bible and part of the Torah, and is thus granted a pass, just like the rest of the utterly sickening words of wisdom we find here in the Torah, dictated by God to Moses, supposedly. In some of the live streams here, we discussed various one scripture deconversion, or at least deconstruction contenders, those that would maybe get your deconstruction well underway, such as Exodus 4:24, when Moses was on his way to Egypt with his family, and the Lord confronted Moses and was about to kill him. It's the lovely short story here of when Moses and his wife, Zipporah, had nearly missed the deadline to circumcise their son, Gershom. And you can find that story in the Holy Shit of the Bible, Zipporah the Zenith Zapper. And there are many that should at least give you a jolt, many of these single verses. But in the case of Leviticus, it's jam-packed with reason after reason for why you should not adopt the Bible, and especially the God of the Bible, as truth, the guide for your life, and this gift, the Bible itself, this gift to humanity that gives you the basic instructions before leaving Earth. So to answer the question above, is the Bible the truth? Is this God the God of the universe and the God I want to worship and share of with the world? I certainly hope for you it's a resounding no. You are better than that. You are better than this book, and let's all grow together. Let's seek to retire forever these archaic writings of depraved and deranged minds that only enslave us and chain us to barbaric and primitive mythologies and ideologies. Much love to all of you as always, and I'll see you next time. Take care.